Good morning, everyone. Thank you for attending the Better at Home Permanent Supportive Housing Rehousing training this morning. In the chat, if you could please list your name, title, agency, and email address to receive credit for your attendance today, that would be great. We're going to have a presentation today by one of our own, Monica Floyd, and you can go ahead and start whenever you get ready. Thanks.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Monica Floyd, and I will be presenting this morning on permanent supportive housing, the rehouse process. I will give everyone about 2 minutes, and I will come back at exactly 10:30. Thank you. Okay, let's go ahead and get started, everyone. Again, my name is Monica Floyd, and I am the Care Manager 1 TCL Supervisor here at Alliance Health. This is permanent supported housing, and we are focusing on rehousing this morning. Next slide, please. Just a little bit about Alliance Health. Here you'll see the behavioral health counties that we represent. Next slide. Okay, what is rehousing? Um, our main goal here is to make sure that our members maintain permanent supportive housing through the TCL program. And here listed, you'll see reasons for separation, financial, housekeeping, family, friends, unauthorized guests, smoking, behavioral issues, neighbors, pets, and legal proceedings. I just want to touch on one of the main reasons that we experience rehouses with our guests, with our members, is unauthorized guests. A lot of our members, as you know, they move people in, and they also do not follow the smoking guidelines. So we always want to make sure that we're tapping into our members to make sure that they are following these guidelines with making sure that they're not having people in there who are not on the lease, and that they know where the designated smoking areas are at our properties. Next slide. Let's talk about the rehousing process. Um, Once an individual shows interest or communicates to us that they want to be rehoused, we have that conversation with the property manager or the landlord to see if they are a vendor with Alliance Health. If they are not a vendor with Alliance Health, we can let them know that our housing department can send them a vendor packet for them to complete and send back. And that way they will be able to do business with us here. Um, we also want to make sure that we explain this process, the rehousing process, to the landlords or property managers before we start anything with them. We want to let them know a little bit about the payment process, that the member will be responsible for 25% of their income, and then Alliance will pick up the remaining balance. We can also discuss with the landlord that the units are required to pass an inspection before members are able to sign a lease. And also, a HAP agreement is essential. It is a requirement for the property manager or landlords to agree with Alliance if they want to lease out our properties to our members. And just an essential fact that this should be done prior to any request for lease being completed or sent to the property managers or landlords. Next slide. All requests for lease should be sent to the subsidy administrator, Tatiana Norford, and she will schedule the inspections. If a unit requires a waiver, there are certain things that calls for waivers to be completed, and I will review them shortly. And these should also be submitted to Tatiana Norford. If you are submitting a targeted key unit, then you would submit a lease notice, other community housing form instead of the RFL. If the owner is different from the property manager, then an owner management agreement will be required. And I'll tap into that a little bit further on down. Once the individual has been accepted for a unit, then there are particular forms that need to be completed. And those are the tenant household composition and income summary, the TCLI certification of informed housing choice, and these are submitted to the subsidy administrator through email. Please be aware that we do not schedule lease signings or move in activities until you receive an email that the member has been approved and the unit has passed inspection. Next slide, please. Financial request for rehousing. I just want to make sure everybody knows that for the rehousing of our members, we do have funds that we can submit requests for. And two of those funds are TYSR rehousing funds and emergency funds. If you have a member who needs to be rehoused or is requesting to be rehoused, you would need to talk to the care manager and let them know this, and also make us aware of what the member actually needs. And so then our care managers will complete the TYSR form, rehousing form, or the emergency forms request and submit them to me. And then I'll review them and submit them to our director of community living for approval. There are no guarantees that any requests for funds will be approved. So we ask that you always tap into community resources in the area. Next slide, please. Okay, here we have the TCL rehousing plan. A lot of you are familiar with this plan that we have. This document is a requirement before any member can be rehoused or the housing search can be started. So I just wanted to make sure that we all are clear and understand what we're looking for when we send these rehousing plans out to you. So of course, we want the member's name to be present. Also the housing slot number. If you're not familiar with the member's housing slot number, then the care manager is able to complete that piece. We want the date on there, and also include the date the separation from housing occurred. Was the separation due to court eviction, non-renewal of lease, notice to vacate, abandonment of the unit, or other? I just wanted to note here, it's always best to give us a brief explanation of why the member is needing to be rehoused. Because we do have a lot of members here in this department that ask or request to be rehoused, and we want to make sure that we are meeting the needs of our members who need to be rehoused the most, meaning if it's a medical issue going on, what are the factors that we're dealing with? And so we do have a space for you to notate the factors and then explain. Like I said, it's always give us an explanation. If it's financial, has the member lost income? Has the member's income decreased? Was member living with family and no longer can live with family? What's going on? If there are any behavior issues or any legal issues involved, just give us a brief synopsis of what's going on so we can better understand and categorize appropriately. Also include problems and barriers that lead to the separation of our members, and just give us some explanation of what's going on. Also, we would like to know what's being done to prepare our members for new tenancy. What changes have we worked with our members? Are there any reoccurring issues? How have we addressed those with the members? And also, have our members been participating in what's been put in place? Have they been compliant? Okay. The last little piece is to identify any goals, specific goals that you're working on with our members, and just give us a synopsis of any type of interventions and supports that we've put in place. Next slide, please. The last page of the rehousing plan is the signature page. We require for all members to sign and date the rehousing plan because, again, this is dealing particularly with that individual, and we want to make sure that we have reviewed the rehousing plan with them and they have participated and agreed to what's been written. And then we ask for the provider to sign and date the rehousing plan and submit to the care manager, which they will sign and date. I will review it. And then if there's no corrections, if I feel like that we can get it approved, I will send it up to the appropriate supportive housing representative. Okay. And our supportive housing manager, director signs and approves the rehousing plans. Next slide, please. Okay, now we get into the request for lease. Okay, let's talk about the request for lease. I know you all have seen this document, but I wanted to make sure that I review it, take this opportunity to review it during this time, because a lot of times we get these back and we have to send them back out for corrections. And we want to try to move the rehousing process as fast as possible, but again, providing quality service to our members. The request for lease goes out to the private landlord or property manager. Of course, we want to make sure the member's name is up there, the housing slot number, and the address that we are looking for our members to be housed in. Number 4, want to make sure that the owner information is in there. The housing type is listed. And number 6, the date owner approved our member for the particular residence. Make sure there's a date there. If there's a whole fee, we want to make sure that that amount is there along with the security deposit and the requested monthly rent amount. Let's talk about the whole fee. I just want to make sure that everyone has the understanding or knows that Alliance doesn't approve whole fees for every member. We have, it's on an individual basis, and that approval comes from our superiors up top, myself, nor the care manager. We don't have anything to do with that. We just basically request for a whole fee to be paid for our members. And if a whole fee is granted, then it's only it will be no more than 2 months. Okay, let's drop down to the tenant box. Want to make sure that the member's name is listed there, printed, and the member will need to sign. We'll need the current address and phone number of the member, and then the date that the member signs it. The next box is for the care manager. The care manager will print their name, the agency name, which is Alliance Health, provide their email address and phone contact. Let's drop to the bottom under owner certification. This box here is a very important box, and a lot of times it comes back needing corrections. So we want to make sure number 12, we list the number of bedrooms. Number 13, the year the property was constructed. If that comes back blank, we could always Google the property name and look and see what year the property was constructed if we're not able to get in contact with that property manager or landlord. Number 14 is a big one. Are reasonable modifications requests in place? for the unit, yes or no. Reasonable accommodations could be sometimes our members may need grab bars, they may need ramps um, if they are in wheelchairs. So sometimes we need to ask that property manager or private landlord if they will do those modifications for us. And if they are in agreement to doing those modifications, we need to establish a date for those modifications to be completed. Number 15, this is just the utility information. And one of the important things that I want to make sure that we are clear on is at the bottom, the essential appliance information, the refrigerator stove, that is the owner's responsibility. Um, we here at Alliance want to make sure that our owners are providing the refrigerators and the stoves for our members. If we come in contact with a property manager or landlord who is not willing to do that, then please reach out to me and I will reach out to the team here um, to have so someone can have a discussion with that property manager or landlord. Okay. And then above that, the electricity, gas, the water, sewer, we need to make sure that we clarify that with that property manager or landlord who is responsible for that. We do have in some cases where um, gas is not a factor, but you want to make sure that you put the NAs where they go. Um, And then number 17 is pretty self-explanatory. Next slide, please. Okay, here we have the state waiver request form. And I wanted to take a minute to go over this because a lot of times I do get questions on this. So I wanted to take this time to review the state waiver request. Um, a lot of times when we are um, applying for private units with our property managers or landlords. And if we have to request anything other than a 1 bedroom, then that's one of the main reasons that we have to complete this state waiver form. The top of this state waiver request form is self-explanatory with the tenant's name, the member's name, the address they'll be going to, the owner information on 3 and 4. The LME is number 5. The name of the care manager completing this request in number 6. And number 7 is yes or no. Has the request release for the unit been submitted? And if so, what date did you submit that RFL? Okay, number 9. This is the box that I wanted to make sure that we are clear on. And this is the box where you will address whatever waiver requests that we are needing to address. So sometimes if that fair market rent is higher than the average, then and if the owner will not come down, then we'll need to write this request to the state to see if they will approve it. If there's any conflict of interest, say for instance, we have an owner who is providing another service with the member, then that is a reason that we'll need to complete a waiver request. And like I mentioned, the bedroom size, if the individual is requesting anything higher than a 1 bedroom, and if they are the only person on the lease, then we will need to do that waiver request. And if the unit's development has more than 20% of the units set aside for persons with disabilities, we will need to do a waiver request for that as well. Okay. And number 10, we want to make sure that this is where we're actually making the justification of why this member should be placed in this unit. All right. In most cases, I know the providers reach out to the care managers. My care managers have a conversation with the providers before this is done, and they are able to include whatever needs to be included in the state waiver. Next slide, please. Make sure that you sign and date the waiver form. This next slide deals with TCLI, Certification of Informed Housing Choice. This form it just lets the state know that our members had a choice in where they want to live. With that being said, the member's name should be printed on the top line, and the box down at the bottom, member's name should be printed. The selected address where the member will be staying, need to make sure that we have the correct address from that property manager or landlord. That address to be put in. Number of bedrooms. Is this member going to be occupying the unit by him or herself? We're going to put yes there if it's a single occupancy, and then we will notate whether or not the member will have a roommate, the signature, and date. Next slide, please. Here we have the lease notice, other community housing. This form here is completed if we are applying for a targeted key property. We want to make sure that we provide this form to the property manager at our key properties so that they are able to complete this form. Most of the form needs to be completed in its entirety, and I wanted to touch on right here, number 15, 16, 17, number 15 through 21. So we need to make sure that we have the date the tenant signed the lease start date, the move-in date, and the start date, lease start date should be the same date, okay? The monthly contract rent, and then we need the tenant rent portion to be put in number 19. Number 20 is the monthly subsidy amount that the state will be paying. And 21, the security deposit amount. I also wanted to make sure that everyone is aware that when we have members who are applying for targeted key properties, our members do not pay security deposits. That amount is paid by the state. And I know here recently we've been having some issues with that, but just give gentle reminders to that property manager that this is a DHHS property and members do not pay the security deposits, and just have that property manager refer back to their liaison or their superior to get the clarification on that. Okay. Let's look at the tenant box. Make sure the member's name is printed there and signed with the housing slot number and the date, and then the care manager's information should be completed in the next box. Next slide, please. TCLI tenant household composition and income summary form. This is another lease signing document that we complete for our members. And this form is completed by our care managers, okay? So I just wanted to review this form briefly. It's a very basic, simple form. The tenant's name goes at the top. Alliance Health as the LME will go in the middle, and the member's housing slot number at the end. Household information, we want to make sure that the member's full name is in there as head of household. And household income, put the head of household, the member's name as the head of household, the income amount, and if the member works, we need to know the employment hourly wages, okay? If the member has roommates, then their income, their name and income will go on this sheet as well. The care manager will sign and date that and submit it to the subsidy administrator. Next slide, please. Here, this is another slide that I have on a process to rehousing for providers. The provider contacts or communicates the members assigned to the CCL care manager. We want to make sure that if we have members who are requesting to be rehoused, that we schedule an attempt to save the member's housing while that member is still in there. And the way that we want to do that is to work together as a team. We may want to have a treatment team meeting to talk about what's going on with the member and what we can do with the member and the landlord or the property manager to save the tenancy for our members. The provider would then complete and submit the rehousing plan and submit that to the care manager to address the reasons for the loss of housing. All right. The care manager will review that plan and submit it to me, and I will submit it to the housing representatives for approval. Our supportive housing team approves these plans, and members are categorized with a date and time that they can sign a lease. We are not to begin rehousing searches until we have an approved rehousing plan. Okay. Next slide, please. Let's talk about targeted key properties. You all are familiar with the process for completing the targeted key referrals for our members. These referrals go to Patricia Bryant, and her email address is listed on the screen for us. We at Alliance Health are promote marketing targeted key properties to our members. We know that our members have the option of where they want to live, but we want to make sure that we take the time to market our targeted key properties when we're assisting our members. Next slide, please. Let's talk about fair market rates. These rates are used to determine payment standard amounts for the Housing Choice Voucher Program and to determine initial rents for housing assistance payment contracts. Next slide, please. This is just an example of fair market rates between Charlotte, Mecklenburg, and Cabarrus County. Just make sure that you are using the most updated fair market rental rates for the areas that you are searching for housing for our members. Next slide, please. Let's talk about the HAP agreement. The HAP agreement is a housing assistance payment agreement that we all use, that Alliance uses when we contract with property managers and landlords. Just want to make sure that when we are assisting our members with searching for housing, that we make sure that we are explaining the rehousing process to the property managers and landlords and making sure that they know that prior to the lease being signed, that they are aware that we do HAP agreements and we have their permission that they are going to comply with these HAP agreements with the Alliance. Next slide, please. Let's talk about housing types that we use in TCL. Our members are housed in apartments, duplexes, townhomes, single-family homes, and in some areas, we do have manufactured homes. Manufactured homes are kind of difficult in most areas. I know in Mecklenburg, we don't generally house members in manufactured homes, but I wanted to make sure that I covered this, I included it because in some areas of North Carolina, manufactured homes are easier to find. All of our homes that we house our members in must have their own entrance, kitchen, and bathroom. And we do not approve boarding homes or rooming houses. Next slide, please. Security deposits. Alliance will pay security deposits for members who are doing initial moves as well as rehouses. Okay. Next slide, please. Let's talk a little bit about B3 funding. This particular funding is used for our members who we house and rehouse. Next slide, please. Just wanted to make sure that everyone is aware of what this document looks like. I noticed that the document has changed some. So this is one I wanted to just make sure that we all know what the basic information is supposed to go on the form. The member's name, Medicaid number, the provider name, contact name for the support staff with that provider, the email address, um, the total budget amount. It should be 5,000. Once the form is completed all the way down, we want to make sure that whatever amount that you have completed on this form, as far as their expenses, it should be it should equal the 5,000. If it equals anything less, that's totally fine. But just know that you will only be reimbursed for the amount that you submit receipts for. So if you only submit for $4,000, then that's what you will be reimbursed for, provided you submit the receipts. Okay. In Alliance, we don't have with the B3, our care managers, we don't have any type of dealings with processing the receipts. The provider is solely responsible for that. Next slide, please. This is just some different categories of some of the essential furnishings that we purchase for our members. You'll see it's broken down into bedroom, living room, bathroom, and then we have miscellaneous items listed there. Next slide, please. Here's some more items, essential items: food preparation, bed, bath, linens. We have moving expenses and other services that are approved. Also wanted to make sure that I make everyone aware that generally if an item is not listed on this form, then 9 times out of 10, it's not going to be approved for reimbursement. So if you ever have any questions about an item, make sure you reach out to a care manager or myself to make sure that it will be approved for reimbursement if it's not on this list. Okay? And just make sure that all the items are totaled and before you submit the form for approval. And I do make sure that I read through the form before I approve it. Next slide, please. Okay, here we have contacts here from Mecklenburg County. Um, for the care managers, I wanted to make sure that I included my staff as a part of this um, PowerPoint. Calvin Durham, Ellis Herring, Shanique Johnson, Sharon Lee, Brittany Long, Dennis Porch, Sydney Turner, and Percola Wilson are the direct staff that I supervise here at Mecklenburg County. There is my information there, and we have our great Tatiana Norford as our subsidy administrator, and her information is there as well. Next slide, please. Okay, we have come to the end of the PowerPoint, and now it's time for us to have questions. So if you have any questions, you can either raise your hand or come off mute and ask. Do we have any questions?
I just wanted to ask if we can add in the PowerPoint that gets sent out, if we can add the home region as well for the TCR
Yes,
care management team.
yes. There's the slide there, Cliff.
Yeah, I mean like Troy's team. Like, you know how
Okay.
you had your team, so we can add them and Angela's team
Yes,
too.
we
So they
can. We
got
can do
the,
that. Actually, that was my intention, but Angela was out on the day that I provided the corrections, and I didn't know um, everybody's name to put on here. But yes, we can
gotcha.
add that.
Okay.
No problem, Cliff.
Because yeah, just because we got both sides, there's both
Absolutely.
providers. And thanks.
Absolutely. You're welcome. Do we have any other questions? Okay, if we don't have any questions, then that concludes the training. Make sure that you put your name and your information in the chat so you can receive your certificate. I don't know if Andrea wanted to come on and say anything, but I'm finished. Thanks, everyone. Andrea, did you have anything?
No, thank you so much, Monica. We appreciate it. Patricia, did you want to open the floor for any general housing questions?
Oh yeah, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Monica. You did a wonderful job, and I really appreciate that. You were so precise on everything that you said, so I appreciate that. Thank you for doing that for us this morning in our Better at Home training. We really
You're welcome.
appreciate you. Now we are going to move into our housing um, question Q&A. If you have anyone that's online, any providers or care manager or transition coordinator, if you have any questions that's pertaining to housing, here's a time we can talk about. We have all of the supportive housing specialists plus the managers